The Talking Stick Festival and the National Aboriginal Achievement Awards are happening here in Vancouver this week. Both celebrate Aboriginal contributions to arts and culture. Drew Hayden Taylor is one of Canada's award-winning playwrights. He is half Native and he is fully talented. His play called In a World Created by a Drunken God will be playing at the Roundhouse in Vancouver as part of the Talking Stick Festival. He is a writer for the National Aboriginal Achievement Awards being held at the Queen Elizabeth Theatre on Friday, and it is my pleasure to welcome Drew Hayden Taylor back to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Good morning.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to be seen.
The writer for the NAF, for the National Aboriginal Achievement Awards, what does that mean?
Well, it's a big, wonderful, fabulous spectacle of awards, of a little bit of comedy, lots of music. Basically, my job is to connect everything, give people things to say, and introduce, write the bios and the introductions to the video clips of all the people winning awards.
And can they tweak your writing? Is that allowed?
I don't know. I've only ever written one poem in my life, and it was, I am old and bittersweet because I refuse to Twitter or tweet.
That's a good one.
So I don't know if they can Twitter or tweet anything of mine.
I don't know either. What was it? What about the one I call my baby Sweet Pea because she has sugar diabetes? I know, bad. Do we remember that from grade 4, or was that
we must
5?
have went to different schools.
I think we did. And you're half, as I pointed out. You're half.
Every other cell.
Every other cell. You've checked.
I've checked. You can do anything these days. Medical science is interesting.
Mm-hmm. So, white father, white mother.
White father, Ojibwe mother.
Mm. You grew up in Curve Lake?
Yep, Curve Lake First Nations in central Ontario with my mother and my mother's family.
Okay. And when did you know you had a white father, or did you always?
It's rather self-evident if you look at me.
I was thinking.
Exactly. I mean, one of my standard jokes, I'm sure I've told it here, is the fact I'm half Ojibwe, half Caucasian, which makes me an occasion, or special occasion.
Special occasion.
I mean, it was always apparent, but it was never an issue, actually, until I left the reserve, till I went to Toronto to go to college. Because, I mean, I come from a huge family. My mother's the oldest of 14.
Ooh, that is huge.
That's what happens when you don't have cable.
Yeah, and big bathroom lineups, too.
Big bathroom lineups.
Part of that.
So I have like 25 first cousins on my mother's side. So it was actually never really an issue until I moved to an urban center, Toronto, where it became obvious to both me and people I was going to school with that I didn't act or look the way most people expected Native people to do. So that sort of, I went through this a bit of an identity crisis for a number of years until I came up with a solution to it, make money from it.
Why not? And where did you start making money from it? This play or many plays before?
Oh, many plays before. I started working on a series of essays that I put together in a book called Funny, You Don't Look Like One, Observations of a Blue-Eyed Ojibwe. So I decided to take the fact that I sort of have a foot in both worlds. I don't fit in either one, but actually I do. And I decided to write about it, and it was sort of like writing therapy.
I'm sure it was, and humor does do that.
Oh, humor is very important. I remember I was having a conversation with an elder from the Blood Reserve in Alberta, and we were talking about this and talking about some of the darker aspects of Native culture and Native history and some of the unfortunate things that have happened to us during colonization, and how I like to sort of celebrate the Aboriginal sense of humor. And he said that's good because in his opinion, humor is the WD-40 of healing. And that sort of stuck with me. So I've always wanted to be a doctor, so that's how I heal.
Any plans? Always wanted to be a doctor?
Oh, yeah.
Are you thinking of med school one of these days?
No, not really. I've actually never been to university. I'm in this unique position of having had 23 books published, having no academic background whatsoever. So I'm a delightful fraud.
Did you read a lot?
Oh, excessively. In fact, my mother had a grade 6 education, but she would always buy me books, and my grandparents, whose first language was Anishinaabe, would always tell her, why do you let them read so much? It's not normal. So every time I would read a book, it would take me to some far-off part of the world, which I actually now get to actually go to.
So did somebody critique your writing in the beginning? Teach you how to write?
No.
Aside from a teacher?
No, I was actually, when I was 16, two pivotal events happened that prevented me from writing. I went to my grade 11 English teacher and said, is it possible to make a living from creative writing? And without even looking up from his desk, he said, no, not really.
What was his name?
Well, the funny thing is...
You can out him.
Well, the funny thing is, my very first play, which won a huge award and became toured and was a big hit, eventually toured to the high school that he became the principal of. And I remember telling him that in his high school, like 10 years later, and being very embarrassed.
I'm sure. What was that one? What was the play?
Toronto at Dreamers Rock.
Okay.
And the second thing that happened when I was 16 was I told my mother I wanted to be a writer. And my mother looked at me very oddly and said, why do you want to be a writer? It's not going to get you anywhere. And so for 10 years, I gave up writing.
And what did you do?
I went to college. I got jobs, contracts. I had a bunch of jobs, but I had no career. And it's one of these situations where I didn't find my career, my vocation. It tracked me down, kicked me in the behind, and basically said, you're a writer. And through a bizarre and fortunate series of circumstances that could never happen in a real world, I became a writer.
How great. And we're glad you did. Okay, in a world created by a drunken god, what is that about?
It's my most autobiographical piece I've ever written without having anything to do with me.
I wondered about that because there is a white father.
It's a what-if story, and oftentimes when I write, I take a page from my life and blow it completely out of proportion. So this is a story about a half-native guy living in the city. There's a knock at his door, and it's a white brother he never knew he had from the States, telling him that their father is dying and he needs a kidney.
Their white father is dying and he needs a kidney, but does the guy know the father?
No, has never met him. He took off before he was born. So this is a double shock, the fact that a father he never knew about, or never really cared about him, a brother he never knew he had, and the fact that the brother is there because they're looking for a kidney donor. So it deals
and a match.
And a match, exactly. So it deals with the issues of you know, what are the responsibilities of biology, what are the responsibilities of just being a human being, all these different things.
Sure, because as you know so well, sometimes blood relatives are not your closest friends, not the people you are closest to.
Exactly.
They say we have to be close to our blood relatives, but not necessarily.
Well, you pick your friends, but not your relatives.
Exactly, but I don't know about your experience, but I'm closer often to my girlfriends than I ever was to my sister. Or maybe she knows too much about me. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, be careful of that biography that'll be coming out in the future about you.
Exactly.
From her.
Well, it's not that you don't love them. It's that there's just things you don't share with a mother or with a child.
Again, you pick your friends.
Sure, not about love. So, is this a happy play?
It is. I mean, it's my most serious play, all things considered, but there's still lots and lots of humor in it because I don't think I can write anything without humor, and it is a slice of life. In the Native community, you have, it's actually like those Greek masks, comedy and tragedy, both sides of the coin, and that is a representation of Native life.
Roberta Jameson was here, as you know, and she's the chair of the National Aboriginal Achievement Awards Foundation, which you also know, and she is the first Aboriginal female lawyer in Canada, a formidable woman, an incredible woman, really. She said and pointed out very clearly that young Native people, they need to go to school more and be able to go to school more, but they also need mentors and they need people they can look up to.
Well, when I was growing up in Curve Lake, I never had any role models. There weren't any Native writers that I knew about in the late 60s, early 70s. So it was like growing up artistically in a vacuum. And today, the opportunities available to Native youth is amazing, and it's like, I'm very envious.
Yes, because if you see yourself reflected in history and in a good way, or certainly if you see someone in your culture in a movie, you go to the movies, everybody's white.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, the good guys are. You know what I mean? And you don't think about that if you've been raised in on the other side, so to speak, but your Native brothers are saying, Well, you know, where was our Sophia Loren? There was one Indian princess, perhaps.
Sasheen Littlefeather.
Was it?
Well, no, she's the one who was it accepted or turned down the word from Marlon Brando at the Academy Awards.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Now, back to you writing awards. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the elements of it all.
Das ist gut.
Okay, das ist good. Jawohl. Drew Hayden Taylor, our guest.